Hello, my dear church boys, and welcome back to yet another episode of St. Robert's Daygame and Dating Podcast. But this podcast episode is a little bit different. It's not just me talking about Daygame. It's not me interviewing someone. It's actually Yash, or you might know him as Mr. Majestic from previous podcast episodes, interviewing me about fitness and Daygame. Yash is a day gamer, but more important for this podcast episode, is a high-level fitness coach. He's coached a few of my day game students, and I was blown away by the before-after pictures. And I met one of the guys he worked with at least a year after they were done with his program, and he was still in great shape. So I decided to get Yash's help to look good on a beach. I've lost around 13 kilos since I started working with him 4 months ago, and I'm working pretty hard to make sure I'm losing muscle instead of muscle mass, and I'm very close to a six-pack. But this podcast episode isn't about my journey. We're gonna do that later after I finish kind of the fat loss phase. This podcast episode is about 4 things. First, about how being in shape affects your dating life. Second, day game advice for guys who live a healthy lifestyle, because let's be honest, getting shit-faced every week on dates isn't the healthiest lifestyle. Third part, we're going to be talking about managing travel and fitness if you're a digital nomad like I used to be 4 or 5 years. And then also I'll share a bit about my experience working with a coach to improve my fitness. So let's jump into it.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the W1 Body Transformation Podcast and Robert's podcast as well. Today I've got like a really, really special guest, with me. He is a dating coach who helps men become the best version of themselves, optimize their dating lives. And in today's toxic environment where people are trying to be way too radically masculine or way too the other way around, he helps men establish the balance and become the best version of themselves. He's helped me in the past as well. And now I'm helping him look good naked. And I got to say, he's one of the perfect clients that I've had the pleasure to work with. And I thought that I'd bring him on, because he's got tons of value to add to those people who want to optimize their health and fitness and their dating lives as well. So, Robert, is that intro good enough for you, or you want to add something to that, man?
Yeah, well, I've been teaching guys how to meet women for, almost 7 years now. Worked with guys from literally all over the world, like, States, Europe, all over, kind of a bunch of places from Asia, Australia. Traveled the world to do this job, kind of went to US and Latin America and all around Europe to coach these guys. And well, then I started working with you. You've been helping me get in shape for what, like 4 months now? Maybe even more? 3, 4?
Yeah. Don't worry, it's soon going to end, man, because you're hungry at the moment, But man, you've done well, and for your success, I just wanted to bring you on this podcast and pick your brains, because you travel a lot, you're active in the dating game, and you help a lot of guys in a similar space as you. So yeah, made like a couple of list of questions, and let's get cracking. Awesome. So my first thing is, does being in shape affect your dating life or no in the first impression? Like, what has been your experience with regards to that?
This is a good question, because it's not important how it affects my dating life, because that would be a one person's view. What is important, kind of the benefit I could bring to this conversation is I've seen kind of what affects the dating life of many different men, and then I can kind of comment on what has been how important is it to be in shape for these guys, to be or not to be in shape. So the answer is kind of yes and no. That it can affect your dating life, but differently than men might imagine. And I think a lot of men misunderstand this. They think that by getting six-pack abs, they'll get the girls. But the thing is, girls don't see your six-pack abs while you're dressed. And the problem with this is, in most cases, that when men start to brag about their good body, they're starting to post like shirtless selfies on Instagram and shit like that. It's sort of the same thing as when a guy uses money to get girls, not by paying, but by bragging that he's making so much money. He has these cars and these watches, and unless that's specifically what the girl is looking for, it's actually repulsive to girls. Girls hate when guys are bragging about their money. They think, oh, if I have this, I'll get the girls. So it's similar with six-pack. So I would say that the thing with a six pack is girls don't see it while you're dressed. So it's not that important if we're looking at pure kind of aesthetical thing, but there's another reason why it's very important. Exception is if you are obese. I've coached guys with six packs, beer bellies, and also some obese guys. And now I have a rule that I don't coach obese guys anymore because there is a level of fatness that if you get there, then you physically become, I'm sorry, but you physically become so unattractive that regardless of how good your personality and game or whatever we call it is, like it becomes irrelevant. So you have to make sure you're not really out of shape. But there is actually a much more interesting, important point when it comes to being in shape. Yes, we don't have the direct kind of, oh, I got a six pack, I got chicks lined up. Like, I mean, that's bullshit. But when you are in better shape, you become proud of that. You start, walking with a chin up, like a nice smirk in your face. You're a confident guy.
Yeah.
And that matters much more than any six-pack abs. So six-pack abs won't get you girls lining up to meet you, but that confidence will make a big difference. So yes, I think by getting in shape, you are improving your dating life, but not because of the reasons guys might think.
Yeah. Yeah, like I also would like to add something to that. That there was a metaphor that me and you were actually talking about in the first few years, basically in the first, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, like where you're learning game, where you're learning how to go and talk to girls, where you're learning how to behave on a date, etc. All of those rules, of courtship is just a value delivery mechanism. But in the long run, what is your value? It's like how you see the world, like how positive you are. Have you gotten your shit straight with regards to money? Women don't really see money from a gold digger perspective. Most of the women are not really gold diggers. They see it from a perspective like, can this guy provide for me when I'm pregnant 9 months when I can't really work for myself? And you need to be financially secure. Second is, are you physically strong? They're not attracted to six pack because it looks good. Are you physically strong enough to protect it? Are you physically strong enough to even take care of yourself and fertile enough, So, I mean, and your charisma, your charm, etc. So all of these things collectively add up. But if you don't really have the trigger to deliver your value in the form of a bullet, which is game and learning the rules of courtship, it's useless basically. So to everybody, you need all, if that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Let me add something to this. We could talk about two different kind of parts of dating. We could talk about just sleeping with the girl, or we can talk about building a long-term relationship, which is what even guys that want to have some fun eventually, a year or two down the line, they want to start a relationship with someone. And the difference between guys in their 20s and then guys into like 30s and older, there's a very big difference. In 20s, you can be a guy with a potential. A guy with the energy, confidence, outgoing. Maybe you don't have anything yet. You don't even have that six pack, or maybe you do because you're young, or you have the drive. You don't have anything yet, and that is completely fine because you're still young. Once you are in your, let's say, 35, 40, older, your potential doesn't mean anything. By that time, if you haven't achieved anything, a lot of women, they're not going to think, oh, he has so much potential, he's going to do it one day. If you're 40 and you work in a grocery store, I mean, shit happens. It can happen to any of us. It can happen to me. It can happen to you because of some circumstances, but you can't pretend anymore. You can't be that fake it till you make it guy anymore. And this is when being in shape becomes important. Not just being in shape, but being in good physical health. Maybe it doesn't mean a six pack, but good overall health, because I think being fit is the new version of being wealthy, of being rich. You have extra time. You're running your business so that you have extra time to kind of take care of other more important things of your life. What was I going to say? You have more time, and you're someone who is able to control himself, to control your impulses, to be a responsible person, to keep working towards your health, not for a few weeks or 2 months, for years. And I think that is very, very important if you're thinking about long-term relationship, being someone who's able to pursue your goals year after year, not just short-term.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. It also shows like you're rational, because obviously you're going through like the last phase of your cutting phase. And yes, you're getting cravings, but you're rational enough to suppress your cravings, which is like a really important factor when you're dating a girl, because let's probably say when you're dating a girl and she deeply trusts you, to a certain degree she submits and she's going to get emotional. If that makes perfect sense. You need to be rational enough to lead. And that's not leading in a negative way, in a manner, but in a positive manner, if that makes perfect sense. yeah, cheers for that, you know. But yeah, like it helps, but it also doesn't help. So if you think I'm going to get a six pack and get a lot of girls, and there's going to be a huge line of girls outside my house, that's rubbish. That's like same like an idiot be bragging with money, and the girl is thinking like this guy's such a douchebag, you know. So there was one concept which you were teaching back in the day, which was humble bragging, you know.
Yeah, handle bragging. Yeah, what about it?
So like back in the day, when I probably go out on dates, basically, um, I'd I'd say like I would like yeah, with the t-shirt on, I'd still look fit, but I would never like show photos of myself like, oh, these are this is how big my biceps are. If that makes perfect sense. So if she finds out that you are fit without you showing that you are fit, that's very attractive. That's like another tool in the box for
Yes.
students, if that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's the same with any other aspect of what we can call, the manosphere. It's called sexual market. Well, I still like the term. It's kind of,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing about wealth, about your kind of habits, your relationships with other people. Like there's a way to brag about it without appearing cocky or arrogant, without appearing arrogant or needy, which is,
Yeah.
closely related.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, and that was awesome. Now moving on, there's a second question. Is the dating life unhealthy as per you?
Yeah, this depends on what you're looking for and maybe some other things. So if you simply want to improve your dating life, let's say you want to become better at meeting girls, you want to maybe improve the quality of girls you can go out with, by becoming better at communicating with girls, maybe improving your style, kind of looks, fitness, and things like that, and then start a relationship. So you're kind of you want to date, but you're not gonna go like, yeah, I'm gonna live the lifestyle. I'm gonna travel the world and bang chicks. Excuse me. If you don't want to do that, you can do it in a healthy way. Like it's not a problem. You're gonna go on like maybe one date a week, 2 dates a week. You can do like 1-2 drinks per date. It's not the end of the world. You come home with the girl. Maybe you have one or two girls you're seeing kind of once a week. While you're looking for the one. So in that case, it's not that bad. You can meet we call them regulars, once a week. You can meet them earlier, like, 6 p.m., be in bed by 10. That's a lot of guys who are in fitness do that. So if you want to do like the tame version, that is totally doable in a healthy lifestyle. But if you always wanted to have that player lifestyle, sleep with a ton of girls, have lots of adventures, maybe some threesomes, gonna travel to like different degenerate places of the world to see the hottest girls in the world. Like, if you want to live that lifestyle, well, you're gonna have a period in your life that will be unhealthy. You're gonna be going on a few dates each week. You're gonna have several regulars that you're seeing each week. You're gonna go to on all of these trips with your guys, and there's gonna be some best case scenario, you're just gonna get drunk. Worst case scenario, you're gonna go further. So there comes a lot of degeneracy with it once you're going to get in a lifestyle. And I think if you're someone who hasn't lived that lifestyle and you're always craved to have that experience and you're somewhat okay with women and you just want to take it to a next level, I think it's totally fine to go through that experience for like a year or two. But you have to understand it's going to take a toll on your health. That lifestyle is not going to be the healthiest.
Yeah.
So there are two ways to look at it. Number one, you do it and you are degenerate for a year or two. If you're like late 20s or like there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you can always like get your health back and start working out. So you can have the degenerate phase, or you can do this sober if you prefer. I know guys who have gone through this, all these experiences all the way to threesomes and things like that, and they don't drink, and they're like ripped fitness dudes who work out like 5 times a week. That their whole Instagram is workouts, and they're doing all of it sober. The problem is that most guys don't know how to date when they're sober, because we're shy. Men are shy. Even if you think you're not, like, if you're trying to improve your dating life, then you're probably a little shy in some situations. You're afraid to maybe escalate and start touching the girl and go for the kiss, and to get that bravery, you need to be a little bit tipsy.
Yeah.
And that's a problem where guys are sort of, it's their crutch. They need to get drunk to do that. And I'm telling you this because I've been there and I've worked with a lot of guys who've been in the same situation. So they're reliant on getting drunk for that bravado, for,
Yeah.
saying something a bit more cockier, kind of saying that comment, or starting to kind of escalate, starting to touch her, invite her back home, going to be a bit more, kind of
Yeah.
kind of forward. Let's put it like that. So, and if you're reliant on that, it's going to be hard. But what you can do is you can learn to run really good dates while being sober. You simply have to, instead of relying on your vibe, on your kind of the bravado, you have to understand how dates actually work step by step. So how do you go from talking about work to talking about more interesting things? Like, kind of you move towards like parties and festivals and these kind of travel adventures. And then you move to like dating topics. And then you move step by step, like a touching girl, like a simple way, more kind of sexual way. You go in for the kiss. How do you invite her back home? If you don't have to rely on on being a little tipsy to do all of these things, if you know exactly how to do it step by step, then it becomes easier to do it when you're sober because you remember better the sequences. You know exactly what to do. You know exactly what steps to take. So this is very important if you want to have that experience, have all of that fun and do that sober and live a healthy life. That is actually very doable. You just have to learn in a step-by-step way how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I work with a couple of guys whom you coach around their health and fitness, basically. And they like, to them, I tell them like, you want to go like for like 2 to 3 years where you just probably doing this. Your health is probably going to take a toss unless and until you're genetically gifted around your health and fitness, where you're like the mutual guy whom we know, which is Mr. T, who has got a six pack even after having like 7 drinks and eats a cheeseburger. You know, like you gotta go through that because you want to like internalize those traits, which is attractive. Eventually, you want to get rid of it, and you want to develop the skill of being sober and addressing your health and fitness. Because if you just think alcohol is the best way to grow a pair of balls, then you're beginning to use it as a crutch rather than a tool, which is going to amplify your already existing traits, if that makes perfect sense, which is actually pretty attractive to women, basically. So in reality, in case if you notice, like the stereotype of like the old school players, the old school day gamers, the old school pickup artists, if you look at them right now, they're not really,
They're miserable.
yeah, they're not really the best type of people to look up to, if that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, you have like, let's say someone's read the book Daygame. Yeah, very popular. Yeah, mystery. Yeah, now he's old. You look at how he looks, how he dresses, and he looks super weird given his age and trying to still pull it off. And he's still kind of pretending to be, that young dude. I mean, he's done so much for the dating world that the book the Daygame has, I would say, been developed based on the stuff Mystery was teaching. It was just adapted to a street environment, like a completely different environment. The whole way he explains attraction and building comfort and seduction, it's all perfect. But if you look at where he's right now in his age, then, well, I don't want to be there. That's not my goal. It would be the opposite of my goal, getting there. You have other guys, very big names in the industry. Well, more than one of them has committed a suicide because they didn't have, I don't know, like, let's maybe not go why, because that would be rude, I think. You have other guys who have went really down the rabbit hole and they're traveling the world and, sending videos to their potential clients of them doing cocaine with like some chicks in Colombia, doing way too many drugs. And you have guys who go into these like red pill, toxic masculinity type of behaviors, become Nazis. Like they're like posting Nazi shit online. So it's an interesting it's an interesting industry, but you have to be careful who you follow. Like, do you actually want to get where they are now, maybe like 10, 15 years after they've been doing this?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. So like, whereas like, well, like people like you basically say like, yeah, like you want to have that phase for like a year or two, basically. And everybody got that phase, like even women have that phase in university where they are like enjoying partying, etc. But you need to pull out at the right time because fast forward, like at the age of 50, you're going to be like one of them retired rockers inside the bar, drinking tequila and telling people how cool you used to be. And that's not what you're aiming for.
Although you can be 50 and like a very cool guy who's successful, just doesn't want to be in a monogamous relationship, committed one, doesn't want kids. We have Joe Chip in my online coaching program. A great guy, really great with women, genuinely good, kind of good at connecting with them. Very ethical seducer. I would also point out. Very kind of impressive in all of these things. That he's 50, but he just has different goals. But that's a different thing because he's not drinking too much. He's not partying too much. He's living an extremely healthy lifestyle. He's training so much, and he's like close to 50 or around 50, and he's training way more than I can imagine training. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And like his physique has peaked right now. I mean, he sent me like a photo of himself. Man's still got abs, and he still looks better than most of the 25 and 30-year-old out there.
Yeah. And does better with women than almost anyone I know.
Yeah. So like in the long run, you want all, basically. You want everything, because that's just gonna like get actual results. And as always, the sweet spot lies between the two. But yeah, like that's what I wanted to add. But also want to ask you, how do you avoid the side effects of the dating, like of the negative effects of dating excessively, you becoming a serial dater, which is like heavy alcohol, you know, when you do establish normalcy back, when you do come out of the alcohol.
Yeah. I've done all the degeneracy, so I'm not as much of a degenerate anymore. I don't, day game all the time. I mostly day game when I coach or when I go on trips, kind of to some very special places that I'm very interested in. Like, for example, I've never been to Africa, and we're going to some places in Africa with Mr. T the next winter, and I'm gonna day game there. When I go to Latin America or all of these places where I was just in Prague with my girlfriend, and I saw so many chicks walking around that I scheduled 2 students there for there in March, just because I want to go on day game a little bit. But how do I handle it right now? I see fewer girls because, again, I don't care as much about getting new lays all the time, which becomes an addiction at some point, and then you're gonna have to ask, am I still getting the benefits out of it? I prefer having regulars, so I'm in a relationship with an amazing girl, one of the nicest, best girls I've met in my life. But in general, I see fewer girls. It's I'm not, and if I see a girl, I don't get like 5 drinks, like one venue, 2 venue, 3 drinks back home. You might have like a drink in a venue, maybe a drink in another venue, come back home. Maybe you have a third one, but I'm not doing that multiple times a week. So it's drinking less. If you see any regulars, any girls, you just see them earlier in a day. You don't see them at like 9 p.m., 10 p.m., and then you go to bed at like, 5 a.m., and your next day is completely messed up. So I just see fewer girls, drink less, see them earlier. It's not that hard once you've gone through that kind of phase of whatever.
Absolutely. And just to add on to that, you can probably add in coffee dates. You can invite them to smoke some broccoli.
Smoke some broccoli, yeah. With coffee, yeah, you have to be careful with coffee dates. Don't do them during the day, because when a girl invites you for a coffee date, when you invite her for a drink and she says, "Oh, but let's go for a coffee date like in the afternoon, like 2 p.m." Well, you're risking becoming friend zoned, so it's important not to fall in that trap. But you still can do late evening drinks where you go to a bar. Maybe if she's not a drinker, if she doesn't drink and you don't drink, you can do sober dates. Your webcam turned off, and if you, let's say, what was I saying?
Yes, you're saying soft drinks, basically.
Yeah, you can do, if she doesn't drink, you can go on a non-alcoholic date, whatever, ice cream, or you have mocktails now. That's a whole new thing. Or if she drinks, you can go to a bar. She gets a she gets a drink, you get something non-alcoholic. There's nothing wrong with that. So there are many options how to solve this.
Yeah, absolutely. There are walks in the park, and they're like, don't do that, but that's like another tool in the box as well. But
yeah, especially once you know what you're doing, you can start doing walks in a park. So like you do a bar and then you go for a walk in a park as the second, instead of a second bar, you just go for a walk in a park. It's totally doable once you know what you're doing. It's a very important point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but so just for the listeners out there, like this might be obvious, but you can do things without screwing up your health. So yeah, but obviously now you got a pretty cool life as well, like a normal life in today's abnormal society, basically. So, like, how did you manage being a hybrid athlete? Because you run a business of coaching, which requires you to travel basically once every 3 months, every quarter, if I got that right. If I might be wrong, basically.
Way more than that.
basically. And when you're like coaching, it's like exhausting. You're just like paying attention to the student. It's all about the student, basically. It's not about you. And you travel quite frequently. That makes it really, really challenging. And you do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And a lot of people might think that, oh, you do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, so getting in shape might be easy for you. But in fact, it's like contradictory. So how did you manage that?
So do we start with the traveling or managing the jiu-jitsu? Because I think there are sort of two different
Yeah,
topics.
let's start off with the traveling and how you do it whilst like day gaming, running your business, etc.
Okay, so if we start with traveling, it depends on how deep you want to go down the rabbit hole with your fitness journey. Because when people work with you, they can, they can choose how anal they want to be about everything. Do they want to do portion sized guidelines?
Yeah.
We're like, oh, you eat like, a piece of protein that's whatever, size of 2 of your palms or 1 of your palm, and like this many of veggies, that many of like whatever carbs and things like that. So you can do that, or you can like count calories and do all of that shit. It kind of it depends on what you want to do. Like I think each of your clients can make a decision on that. Well, I'm someone I knew that I'm ready to go deeper. I'm ready to count calories. I chose that path. So in a way, it made it easier, because it means wherever I go, I can eat. I can find places to eat in any location I go to. I just need to look them up in whatever tracking app I use. I just need to weight them in a kitchen scale. Oh, it's very easy to eat healthy wherever I go. Like I traveled around, like I went to Argentina, multiple places in Argentina. I went hiking in Argentina for a week in Patagonia. I went to Colombia. I went to Prague, and now I'm in Riga, Latvia, where I spend most of my time. And in all of these places, I can figure out the nutrition just by, using a simple kitchen scale. I think if you don't have that, it's a little bit harder, because the food differs from place to place. But you can find like the basic, like the rice and steak, rice and chicken type of thing anywhere you go. In like any city has restaurants. So it's a bit about preparation. So knowing how to get healthy food there. In my case, that's from kitchen scales in my backpack. And when I'm eating out, I'm using ChatGPT. I take a photo of what I eat. I describe what it is. I take a photo of the menu as well.
Yeah.
I upload it to ChatGPT. I say, hey, I'm eating out. This is what it is. I describe everything. Give me calories and macros. It's not accurate, but if I have that meal out like twice a week, I think it's good enough and not a big problem. Most important thing with traveling is, this was a hard one for me, because you told me you gotta have bathroom scales wherever you go, because you gotta monitor your weight. And in the beginning, it was like, fuck you. Like, I'm not traveling with bathroom scales. But turns out there's a solution. They cost like €25. You can get like whichever are the cheapest ones in a store. You can go in a store, buy them for €25, and leave them in a fucking Airbnb. I left ones in a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym. I went there, it's like, hey guys, like I travel, I have scales here, like before you compete, like you can. So I had to buy bathroom scales either to each place I went to, or I just had them in my backpack or in my luggage. So it was in the beginning it was like, what the fuck am I doing? But it became easy. As I said, you can always buy them for nothing in each location, give them away to someone. Okay, don't give them away to a chick. What made it much easier? Well, working with you made it much easier, because you always helped me adjust to each gym I was going to. Maybe I go to a new gym and there's different equipment, so you adjusted my workout program by saying, "Oh, instead of that work kind of exercise, we're gonna do this." And you explain me how to do it. I shoot videos. I send the videos to you of me, like whatever, doing some press machine, whatever. And you just correct it quickly. That was very, very important. That helped a lot to adjust to new locations. Maybe you're in one location, you figure out what foods from grocery store work for you, but then you go to a different place and it's like more steak, but turns out steak is fatty. I didn't know that. And so that has been very, very helpful. The hard thing is also maybe getting the steps in is harder if I go to like a really dangerous place. Like I went to one place in Colombia where, walking around outside of the safest area was not a smart thing to do. That's about traveling. So scales, knowing what to eat, that's easy. And then having you support me through that. When it comes to while I coach, it's not really a problem, because it just adds to it. Because when I coach someone, we're spending 4 hours a day walking around the streets, chatting to girls. I listen to all the conversations students do, and I coach them through everything. And in a day like that, I do 20 to 25,000 steps, around 25,000 steps. So there's a lot of walking.
Yeah.
Learned to do that so that it doesn't affect my back pain. I learned to take breaks, kind of not coach too many days in a row, so that the fatigue doesn't get in the way. Fatigue would be a very hard thing for me otherwise. But if you manage fatigue by maybe not doing jujitsu when I coach and things like that, it's not really a problem, to be honest. I don't really care. I mean, now that I'm going through the last mile of my cut and, I may be getting annoyed more easily, I maybe wouldn't coach a student right now in the state I am right now. As you can see, like we're talking and like I've had 2 or 3 cases where I'm like, wait, what was I talking about?
Yeah.
This is a bit of brain fog with how low my body fat percentage is right now. Like sometimes it's sort of like that. Anyways, I'm rambling. Does that answer the travel and coaching and that question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to add to that, like, I mean, like to the day gamers whose health and fitness are at rest, who have come from you basically. Like I tell them, like, there always is a way. Like if you're gonna go to a city, let's probably say you're gonna go to a city like Bangkok, basically. There are like so many restaurants with the calories and macros I mentioned, or you can stick to portion sizes guidelines, or you can like track your own calories and macros by cooking your own meals. But the suck of the process doesn't go away. Like you gotta do the work, Like for someone like you,
Yeah.
whereas a lot of people they go like, oh, but I'm traveling. Like you do the work, then you change. Like the suck of the process, like it's not gonna go away. You know? Like when you coach guys, basically, like the approach anxiety is the suck of the process. It sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, but once they get over it, it's easy. And for me, starting to work with you, it was relatively easy because I had experience tracking my calories. I had experience working out. And in the beginning, you weren't like, oh, you're eating too much fat. You were just like, hey, eat whatever you want, just track it for the first few days. And then you told me, okay, like a few days later, okay, like this is the calories you should kind of fit under. This is how much protein you should eat. Like that's easy to do. The initial kind of, hey, I got to start tracking thing. It seems really hard, but once you're in, like a week in, you're like, whatever, I'm tracking things. It's easy. The crazy cravings for sweets, they go away. Like a few weeks in, you're like, whatever. Like, and then the more I polished, the thing was, the beginning was hard, but the more I polished the nutrition, the easier it became. Like when I had cravings or mood swings, it was because I wasn't eating enough carbs. But you weren't saying in the beginning, oh, eat like 200, whatever, 80 grams of carbs per day and do simple carbs around workouts and complex carbs in the morning, or like we weren't even talking about that. That was like way deeper. And that was sort of, I chose to geek out super hard. And the more I did it, the easier it became. The hard part was like 1 or 2 weeks in the beginning just to get used to tracking stuff. After that, it's easy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think with Daygame is the same. Like once you overcome the approach anxiety, guys think that overcoming the fear of, you see a beautiful girl in like walking down the street or in a coffee shop, in a shopping mall or grocery store, and you think, oh my God, like I would want to say hi, but it's like so scary. And that's why guys reach out to me, but they think that is the biggest problem. It is not. It's like the step one. And once you overcome it, it becomes much easier to learn Daygame. And I think with fitness, it's the same. People think that tracking is, oh my God, so hard. But no, once you learn to track things, everything else becomes easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And like to a lot of people, obviously you must have told to a lot of beginners, like the barrier for you guys to get a girl is so low. You just need to go and say hello. Once when you say hello, then the sexy stuff comes. Then the process actually becomes fun, So like once you want to track your calories, once when you get your head out of your ass basically and actually do the 10,000 steps, which is so simple. Once when you just simply go to the gym and make mistakes, but you show up to the gym, then the sexy shit comes. Then the coach can actually teach you like that there are levels to the shit basically. But for most of the people, the barrier is so low for getting success. But yeah, I wanted to also ask you, you obviously do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and knowing you love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu way more than you love bodybuilding. Like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu,
I love both.
you love both. Oh, sweet. So
yeah,
you've done a good job with regards to instilling the love of the process in you. So I'm happy with that. But and you were more prone to injuries as well, before we got started. So like, how's your experience been around managing bodybuilding, improving your body composition with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu around your injuries?
Yeah, that's a good question because my problem has always been I have tried getting in shape before, but I usually get injured. Like it's just what happens. So with jiu-jitsu, the problem is with fatigue. Your muscles recover, but your maybe ligaments and bones and things like that, they don't heal as fast. And because of that, like you start to feel tired, everything starts to ache, your back, starts to be like, oh, it's a little sensitive. It's a little sensitive. And then you're like, oh shit, it's fucked. And then I'm like out for 5 days and so like crooked that you can make a meme out of the picture how crooked I look when I fuck off my back. So it's about managing fatigue, and there are kind of, I would say, 4 points that I have to say about this. First of all, I'd say you guided me through the obstacles in like a soft way. Like in the beginning, you were just kind of, yeah, you should do a little less BJJ. I was like, well, fuck you. I'm not gonna do that. I love BJJ, and it worked for a while. But then I was like, okay, I'm getting too fatigued. It's like, and my back is achy all the time. It's just too much. So I started going lighter when I rolled. That's we call sparring, rolling in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I started going lighter. I stopped rolling with very aggressive beginners who are just going to injure you and where I would have to use all of my strength all the time. I trained much lighter in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Then the third point would be I was resting a lot. I made sure I sleep good, and I don't have sleep problems. So it's, I'm not I don't live a stressed lifestyle. I have a very chill life. But I made sure I sleep enough, and I have a lot of downtime where, I'll like chill in the evening, Netflix, in the evening just to rest more, because that helps a lot. And then the last point would be the more I polish the nutrition, the easier it becomes, especially things like meal and carb timing. Like once I figure out, okay, after the workout, I'm gonna not eat a lot of fat. I'm gonna eat like lean, super lean protein, like extremely lean. Like right now, my protein is like ground turkey breast, which I haven't found the protein source that's leaner than that. It's like better than chicken breast. You do like that, and like low, like starchy carbs, like something that doesn't have fiber in it, like white rice or like pasta. And that, like figuring out that, oh, after workout I should do this, but in the morning I should do this, and in the evening right after Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu maybe I need this, during Jiu-Jitsu I need this. Like, so the more I kind of dialed in all of these things, the more I could get out of my training, or the more I could train. But even without this, just making sure that, follow the guidance from you, train lighter and rest a lot, that gave me, I'd say, like 65% of the benefit. And then polishing the carb timing and meal timing gave the rest the remaining 35.
Yep. Yeah, with regards to that, it was important to know that you had the basics. You never really oversaw the importance of the basics. Whereas a lot of people, they go like, I don't know, rub aloe vera on my belly, put fucking pink Himalayan salt from the nectar of a goddess, whilst having ashwagandha from the hills of the Kama Sutra book. Like, you didn't do any of that shit, basically.
Yeah, it's like ashwagandha suppository.
Yeah, like, no, we didn't do all of that. We did go to the like sexy side of things, but you nailed the basics, and like 90% of the stuff is going to come from the basics, which is good sleep. Most of the people don't sleep properly. You didn't fuck with your sleep. You did take some downtime, and you've been really good at that, basically. And one thing, like in the starting, the way I coached you, and I think so you coach your students like that, is you give them the bare minimum to reap out the maximum. So I was like, I'm going to give you the bare minimum to reap out the maximum. Let this solidify, then let me throw like another variable at it. Then let me throw, because you want to coach students to not need you. That's like your biggest win. Like, I want to.
Yeah, that's my attitude about coaching.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to give this guy the bare minimum. Yes, I might be taking it slightly slower than what I usually take, but this guy's got his head straight. Cool. Let me just.
Well, this was slower. Fuck you. This was fast as fuck.
Well, now we're going pretty fast because we got all the raw ingredients in check, basically. But yeah, and like the only sexy side of things, like the spicy thing that we've spoken about, is managing fatigue. A lot of people think that they need to be training in the gym for weeks on end, but they forget to take deloads. Like, how basic is that shit?
Yeah, and actually I've learned, I haven't shared this with you yet, but there's a thing I learned about deloads. So when I was reading a book about the recovery that you suggested, and one thing they told, how to understand how much recovery do you need, they said there's no clear guidance, but what you do is once you take a deload, you see whether that was enough. Like afterwards, you see, hey, how fast am I getting super tired again? How fast do things start aching again? And I think what I have to do is I think I can keep going for the typical, like, whatever, however many weeks we do, like a typical mesocycle.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for, sorry, dear audience, for throwing around complicated terms, but and then you take a break. But I realized I probably need more than a week for my ligaments to recover, because I can feel a few weeks in, like a shoulder a little bit here, something a little bit there. So I assume that means these places haven't fully recovered if they're already at, like, letting me know that they exist like 3 weeks in. So I think in the future, yeah, it's important to but yeah, exactly. So it's just about the basics. Like, number one, train lighter. Number two, rest well. Number three, eat well. That's it.
Yeah. And yeah, like for the people out there wondering what is a mesocycle, is basically a collection of workouts over a given week. So like this is the way I coach it for my clients basically. In an ideal world, you want to be training anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks. You know, now there's something known as a proactive deload. Let's probably say that you can accumulate progression for 6 weeks before you get fucked, and you want to take some time off on the seventh week. You know that, but there's also something known as a lifestyle deload, which is, let's say I am going to be traveling. So instead of training for 6 weeks, because that's your individual tolerance ratio, you extend your mesocycle for 7 to 8 weeks, and you take slightly more. It's like you take like a slightly like a longer rest period, more than like the typical 1 week. Perhaps 10 days. You're not going to lose shit. In fact, you're going to recover and you're going to come back stronger. So this is like the way I was able to program it for Robert. Basically, we had a combination of like proactive deloads. We had a combination of reactive deloads, and deloads are just like a fancy way of taking some time off the things that stress you out, so that you can come back bigger and better.
By the way, what's an interesting thing that happened once I dialed in the nutrition a little bit more? And again, I don't think most people want to dial in the nutrition to the level that I've done it. I'm just a geeky guy, I used to look really flat, like in the check-in photos as well. Like I would take them fasted, and throughout the day I would look pretty flat. And now I changed carb intake a little bit. I reduced fats to like the healthy minimum, and I increased carbs, and I don't look flat anymore. Like, I look in the mirror. I posted the gym selfie yesterday on Instagram,
Eh,
and I took a selfie and I was like, damn, dude, like, you hot. Like, I was surprised that it's not flat anymore. There's actually some there's some texture on my body. I'm not just I didn't just escape prison camp or whatever.
Yeah, for sure, man. But yeah, also wanted to add on to that, like you looking flat is a part of the process. If you look flat during your prep, when you do begin to fill up, basically when we add the carbs back in, you're gonna look crispy. And a lot of people think that they're losing muscle, but being flat is a part of the process. Like you're gonna think like you look like a flat as a pancake, basically, like no muscle. It's just like the water being pulled out of your muscles out. So, and carbs actually help you get fuller, basically. Obviously, you want to make a trade off. You want high carb, low carb. What do you want? It doesn't make a difference. But I think we also covered like how did you manage travel and fitness. But like the one thing that you've told me is you took your weighing scales along with you, and a lot of people like shit themselves, and they keep on saying this rubbish like the weight on the scale doesn't matter. That's like beginner coming and telling you, or beginner intermediate coming and telling you, my lay ratio doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's so stupid. That is so stupid. Like, it's just, yeah. So is there a question?
I wanted to say, like, like the most basic things, people oversee that, and like not carrying your food scale, not carrying your weighing scale, but you're like legit ignoring those indicators, which actually let you know whether you're progressing, whether you're not progressing, basically.
Yeah.
What has been your take on that?
I think there is the problem with these statements that the weight on a scale doesn't matter. The problem with them is that they are partially true. Like, there are scenarios when it's like toxic manosphere. It's the same thing. All these red pill beliefs about women doing this or doing that, or they are true in some cases, but then guys take that statement, which is true in a certain situation, and apply it to all situations. So when you take a statement like the weight on a scale doesn't matter, yes, if let's say you are someone who is a buddy of mine, recently lost a lot of weight very, very fast. And you could look at the scales and you're like, oh my God, I'm losing weight. This is so good. This is so nice. But what is happening is these people, they're losing a lot of fat, but a lot of muscle mass. And then that is incredibly bad because let's say you lose a lot of fat, you lose a lot of muscle mass. Most people, I think it was like what was the stats? Like 99% of people who do a diet fall off the wagon sooner or later. And when a person like that falls off the wagon, they're gonna gain the weight back. But if they're not lifting, they're only going to gain the body fat back. They're not going to gain more muscle mass. So what happened if you take a cycle of losing weight and gaining back up weight, they lose, if you compare the beginning to an end, they might be at the same weight, but at the end they have lower muscle mass because they lost muscle mass. And if they're not lifting, it's not like not all of it is coming back. Maybe a little bit of it is coming back when they start eating again, but not all of it. So if you look at it like that, then a statement like the weight on the scales doesn't mean much because you could be losing you could be losing muscle mass, and that is true. But because you have to take into account that I have to work out, I have to eat enough protein, and if I cut too many calories, then well, I will lose muscle mass, and you have to take all of these things into account. But if you are working out, you're lifting, you're going to the gym, however many times per week, and you are taking care of your nutrition, you're eating enough protein, you're eating whatever, more or less this many calories or whatever guidelines you're using. Like if you're not a complete guy, if you're not doing this completely stupid thing where you're just losing everything, you're taking care of these things, then stepping on scales is very, very important because you understand where you are moving. And you know that most likely you're not losing a lot of muscle mass. You're losing some, but you're not losing a lot because you're taking care of these things. So that statement of scales don't matter, it is true in some cases, but we can't apply it to everyone. If you're someone who is just an average guy, then well, yeah, stepping on a scale doesn't matter because well, you're losing muscle mass anyway. You're doing this wrong. Whereas if you're doing this with a coach and you know how to do this and you're not losing muscle mass, then scales are extremely important. Maybe not, what happens on them every day, but which is something I've learned recently, after being super pissed that nothing changes for like 3 weeks in a row. But then I look at these weeks and I steadily keep losing weight, except the last 2.5 weeks. You look at the averages, but if you're doing things correctly, let's put it like that. If you're being dumb about your fitness, stepping on scales doesn't matter. If you're being smart about it, it's a very good, it will give you a very good understanding where things are moving, just as are taking your measurements, kind of your chest, your whatever, where you can measure kind of if you're losing centimeters, and taking photos every week to kind of see how we change. All of that is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's the scale is not really the only thing, but it's with regards to your indicators of progress. It's a combination of, is your training performance going up? What's the scale trending like? What's your circumferences like? What's your skin fold calipers like? And what are your photos like? A lot of people like to say it's only about the photos, basically. No. You need all of them, basically, because then you got to get a clear picture. But yeah, glad you got that clarified, basically. Now, also wanted to ask you, does hiring a coach help you? Did it help?
Well, I'm the type of a person who sort of likes to figure shit out on my own. I've always been like that. I like to, geek out on things and learn this shit on my own. The reality is I always failed sooner or later. This is what I realized about my fitness. And I told to myself, listen, Rob, this is like, you think you can do this on your own. This is your last chance. Like, let's see whether you actually do this. If not, then your approach, your beliefs don't work and you probably need some outside help. And I gave myself like a kind of prove, if you think you can do it on your own, prove it to yourself. And I was following good diets, but to me, they were too restricting. And the thing is, sooner or later, I got injured. But I thought I knew stuff about fitness. I had read 4 Hour Body, I'm sorry, I love Tim Ferriss, but it's the Bible of bro science, basically. All of it is just absolutely ridiculous bro science. Slow carb diet is great, but again, it's too restricting. And I followed Scooby's workshops. Scooby's workshop is like this dude who gave these home workouts, really good. But I thought I understood nutrition and how to lift. But at the end, it turned out once I learned much more with you, I realized that everything I knew was either outdated, oversimplified, or when it comes to Scooby's workshops, I'm sorry, he's a great guy, but a lot of the stuff was completely wrong. He was talking about making sure, like when you're doing lat pull downs, that you don't kind of let your scapulas move to avoid injuries, whereas that's one of the most important, that's it's not one of the most important parts, but it's an important part of any exercise, is letting your scapula move in these kind of pulling exercises. So a lot of the stuff was plain wrong. So I would have to say that hands down, working with a coach was the best decision I had ever made for my fitness. Now I understand how to eat what the hell I want. And although, like, let's be real, it is restricting, but I understand how to squeeze in a hamburger or some marshmallows or anything I like and still lose body fat. I understand why I was getting injured. And it's the things no one talks about. I had no idea that, there are things like mesocycles and you need deloads and you need to let your body recover. Otherwise, you'll get injured. Like no one talks about it because this isn't the typical bro science. You don't find it in the typical books. Like Tim Ferriss never talked about shit like that. So when I have to take time off, which exercises I have to avoid to kind of not fuck up my lower back, and you're taking a look at like videos. I send in videos every week of me working out, being an idiot in the gym that's, taking videos of some lifting. Like, and you make sure my form is correct so I don't get stupid injuries. And also another big thing, this is the biggest thing for coaching, accountability works. I've never had anyone gonna coach me for accountability, and accountability works like nothing else. I'm someone who, if I smoke the devil's lettuce, I can't control myself. I have crazy munchies and I will go like completely nuts. Right now, if I'm in a place where I smoke, sometimes I'm in places where it's legal, I smoke it like Thailand or whatever. And if I smoke it, like, I know I have to be accountable for my diet, and I know I have a goal, and I have not gone over the calories while being stoned out of my mind a single time since I'm on a diet. Actually, since I saw how effective it was to stay accountable to you, I introduced weekly accountability to my Daygame coaching students. Like I made it part of my coaching program. I don't know if you knew that, but yeah, now my guys do check-ins every Monday.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Like, I hope you've downloaded Loom, man. No, but so I wanted to add on to that because a lot of people, they get really attracted by the stuff that sells, which is like the warrior diet, the carnivore diet, the 4-hour work week. Not taking a piss at it, but in case if you look at the success ratio of it, it's like really, really less. But it's good to sell. Like, I mean, even your stuff, basically, it works. But like compared to how to get a girlfriend, 6 dynamite texts to, you know, like the stuff that works is not really sexy. It's not sexy.
Yeah.
It's gonna take time. It's more of like a mentorship rather than a for like 1 month and then I'm gonna go and try to do it by myself. Your values are different. Like your values are very different than, so if you talk yourself out of your own health and fitness, please don't delegate it. Yes, you might probably be spending money, and I probably might be saying this because I'm a coach and this is my business. But if you trade time for money, like you're gonna get so much more back in the process. And like it's gonna take like 6-9 months basically for you to learn the ropes by yourself. But after that, you're good to go by yourself because you're educated basically.
Yeah, and right now I feel like I need a few more months, like, because right now I feel like if everything I know right now, I could do another cut. Like if I with everything that I know, I could get to where I am right now in the future if I needed to, knowing everything that I learned. But there's a part I haven't learned, so I will add muscle after this, and that's a whole different skill set. So like if someone wants to, just lose some body fat, they can do like whatever is the shortest thing you do. Like just lose fat. You can do that in a few months and then learn how to. But then again, if you want to kind of add muscle on top of that, and then I think there is more work to do. Understand deloads, understand how to adapt it to yourself. I think there's so much work to do and to learn, and that's what I like. It's important to first of all, you have to be like, you have to know your shit, and you have history in one of the world's one of the top gyms in the world, one of the best gyms in the world. You used to coach there, and now you have so much experience with like coaching guys online. And I started working with you because I saw the results of like people I knew, like people I were like meeting, my former students who work with you. I saw them like, go from like a huge beer belly to like almost a six pack, not really, but like pretty much a six pack. I was like, what the fuck is that? And I see these guys a year later, they're still fit. And that's ridiculous. And the things you sell, yeah, well, they're not sexy. You're not saying, this like short, quick diet and like 3-minute workout is going to get you fit. That's bullshit. But you're teaching how things actually work. There's nothing, by the way, there's nothing wrong with slow carb diet, for example. It works. But if you look at why it works, it's just because you eat fewer calories. Like you eat less rice and more beans, and if you're not lifting, you're gonna be okay. But if you start lifting, that diet will not work long term because you're gonna be too fatigued. But it's a good start. But it's about selling shit that works, not selling shit that people want to buy. Let's put it like
But
that.
you see, like you're selling, like what you and I you are doing in your industry and what I'm doing in my industry. We're selling principles. What people are doing is they're making principles, and they packaging the one variation of that particular principle in something sexy, and they're selling it. Not taking away from those guys, but once we need to understand why it works. I mean, teach a man how to fish and he's not going to be hungry, but give the man a fish, he's going to keep coming back to you for more, basically. And you're probably doing this service to your client, basically, if you have them keep coming back to you for more.
Yeah, so what I do is I tell all of when someone's deciding whether they want to work with me, we always get on a call to kind of get to know each other. And I always tell them, listen, I don't really care how you do while I'm next to you, because it's very easy for me to get someone laid when they're next to me. Like, it's super easy. The hard part is they go home and then I'm not next to them anymore. And they have to go and do this on their own. So I tell them, I don't care how you do when I'm next to you. I care about how you do 6 months after. And that's kind of what I sell. And the thing with when you teach people, when you create products that are harder but that work, that are not like, quick, that are not a quick fix, but people actually have to do the work, but you guide them through it, you help them through it. The thing with that is it's not sexy. It takes some time to get results, and you need a lot of you need to build up your credibility. You need to build up a good portfolio of success stories. And the thing is, while you're building it up, your services might be at a price level. Well, they might be the average pricing of the industry. Let's call it like that, because you're just another guy who does this. But if your approach is better and works better, like 2 years later, you're going to have a really good track record. And by that time, people are going to be like, people who 2 years ago were like, yeah, I don't know, it's complicated. Does it really work? Like, I'm not going to spend this money. And then 2 years later, these guys knock on your door and they're like, hey, I want to work with you. And I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And you tell them the pricing is like 2.5x what it used to be a few years ago. And now they're like, oh, shit, like, but it used to be that. Yeah, back then you didn't know who I am. And now they say no. And then 2 years later, they reach out again. And it's again 2.5x more from what it was. I think for you as well, I think the pricing that you're charging is sort of like, if you're looking at a good coach, good online coach, I think it's like the average pricing that the people charge. You're not charging less, you're not charging more. But I think the problem will start the more success stories you get, like, that pricing's probably, you're gonna get, so you're already so busy that overworked. I think you work too much, dude. Like, my view on work, and I think you work too much. But I think the problem is that the pricing is gonna probably be like 2-3 times more in like a few years from now. I mean, it should be. If it's not, then you're leaving money on the table.
But no, actually my prices have actually gone up. You know about it, but
very good.
Yeah. But with regards to that, like, I make it a point, like, if I'm increasing my prices, I'm constantly upskilling myself. I myself have a coach around my own health and fitness. Like, I'm learning about drugs, I'm learning about steroids. Not that I put my clients on it, but as a coach, I need to be 10x more than my clients, basically. And the one thing that I want to point out is, let's probably say you charge premium. Your service obviously has to be premium. It has to be premium. It has to be quality. And you automatically, the people who are willing to invest in themselves that much are serious. They're not here to fuck around. They're not here to be spoon fed. So you're working with quality people, if that makes sense. Like, you probably experienced this when you first started Daygame coaching. how many weirdos did you work with? I'd like to call them gamma males, even though I'm not really, how many gamma?
I don't know those. I don't understand that alphabet, but I know it exists and there's all these terms. I don't even know them. But
Yeah, but how many weirdos did you work with? You worked with a lot of them.
not a lot, but once in a while you'd get a weird dude. Yeah. Yeah. And then over time you learn how to filter them out. And there are some ways they filter out themselves.
Yeah.
Like I make sure they filter out themselves. So right now I work almost exclusively with really cool dudes. And if I ever meet like someone who's like completely weird, super weird, I just kind of think, hey, why didn't I notice this before? Because you have some toxic men with a lot of negative beliefs about women. And I have a rule that I don't teach pickup artists anymore. If you want to lie to a girl just to get in bed, like it's not necessary. I don't work with those. But if you sort of want to understand how to make a girl want to sleep with you, even though it's just casual when it's a win-win, then I can teach you that. And in the beginning, I didn't know how to do that. Now I know. Yeah, I can. You filter them out. Pricing also filters out kind of incels and things like that.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, and it happens all the time. But you're obviously upskilling yourself. I'm obviously upskilling myself as well. But one last thing that I want to also bring up, because obviously this is the last topic. Yes, my knowledge, etc., is on point. I gave you a truckload of information, and I keep on giving you a truckload of information. Just the other day, I gave you some information on how to build an ass, basically, not for yourself, but sorry if you're bringing some water. With regards to that, it's not really. Yes, it is the information, it is the knowledge, but it is also the way in which it is crystallized in the form of a plan that you can do. That's the second thing. And this third thing is the way the coach actually teaches. So, yeah, you know the science, but if you can't communicate it and may break it down in the form of metaphors in the way the other person understands, like you are a shit coach, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
The fourth one is accountability. Now, as per you, what is accountability with regards to your health and fitness? Is it just telling like, hey, this is the plan? Or is it like communicating on a day-to-day basis? Is it like looking at the numbers?
No, it is having like every day I fill out a daily check-in where it's like, hey, so how many steps did you take? How many calories did you eat? How many, whatever. Like, did you take your supplements? Did you work out? Did you do cardio? How was your sleep? And having that thing every day is just super helpful because it helps me make I don't want to say like I ate too many calories. I don't want to enter the number, so I'm going to be accountable in that way. And that one, and then weekly check-ins, kind of where is this actually going? Is this actually working? Are the photos changing? Is my weight on average trending in the right direction? Is my body fat dropping? So all these things, you messaging me once in a while, yeah, it's okay. I'm not the person who like I'll reach out if something doesn't work. Like I'm sort of like that. I'm a very self-sufficient person. But for other people, it might be very important to kind of check in. Hey, like, are you still on track, or are you like pigging out in like McDonald's?
Yeah.
So, but it's also valuable for someone probably.
Yeah. Yeah. I probably have this rule to message everyone at least once every 2 days. Just like, hey, how's it going? Even though it's all good, cool. Just let me know. But yeah, yeah, I think we've covered everything, man. Robert, do you want to add something, because your insights have been like super valuable with regards to this?
You had 3 questions. We can run quickly over them. We had you told me to so how has improving health impacted my dating? Real things in my case, because I think it's important to kind of talk about these things. It's not just about, six pack. It's let's kind of, be real about this. First of all, better hard-ons.
Yeah.
I'm fitter. I'm getting better hard-ons. Like that's it. Like, because I've done a lot of degeneracy. I've had a lot of alcohol in my life, and a lot of partying. So it's like damn. Like, turns out I can perform really, really good. Increased libido as well. So that's interestingly, because you told me your hard-ons are going to be a little bit worse on the last mile. Your libido is going to drop. Nothing like that. It's
wait till I
quite the other thing.
Until I have the food back in. Yeah.
Yeah. Are going to be a walking hard-on.
Yeah.
Grinding on everything. Going to turn into a creep, But the feeling when I'm sorry for the younger audiences, but the feeling when you're fucking a girl and you're on top, and she just runs her kind of fingers down your abs.
Yeah.
And you see in her face that, yeah, daddy, like you see it. It's like, it's a really, really good feeling.
There you go, man. I mean, yeah, it's more of like, it's probably say when your girl has a nice booty, basically. You feel nice. Yeah. I mean, same.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like nice tits, you know? Yeah. And I think the last thing we can quickly touch upon, which I think I do have something to add there as a dating coach about the best ways to meet girls if you live a healthy lifestyle. Like if someone is actually trying to improve their dating life, I think it's a good idea to look at it. Okay, so what can I actually do that's healthy instead of, just like in getting shit faced and doing all of these dumb things. I think we can quickly run over that. And let's look at the few main places guys meet girls. You have online dating, you have bars and clubs, and then you have social circle like friends, uni, friends of friends. And let's look at it from kind of what works and what doesn't, and also from the health perspective. So online dating, I think, has gotten worse and worse over the years. In the beginning, it was really good. Then it came to like, if you know how to make a really good profile, it works. And now it's sort of like, if it works, you're a wunderkind. Like I know guys who had really good profiles and it doesn't work for them anymore. I knew how to, if I go to like a place with not a lot of gringos, I knew how to get laid also with online dating. Now it has stopped working. And I think with online dating, the big thing is it has a negative effects on mental health.
Yeah.
Because you see all of these rejections, you see girls responding so slow, like just flaking, disappearing, showing up on dates, being entitled, like, oh, where are you going to take me? What are we going to do? This kind of princessy attitude. Like, I think it's very unhealthy from the mental health perspective. So I think and it doesn't really work. So we can actually just cross it out just because it doesn't work. You look at the second option, bars and clubs, which if you're a young guy and like 22 and you like to go out and party, all good. Go out, enjoy, while it lasts. But I think most people in my audience and in your are maybe like in their 30s and older. And maybe we don't like staying up until 2 a.m. or like 5 a.m., like 3 times a week. It takes a toll on our health. So I think a lot of people just don't want to party anymore because they don't drink enough. They don't drink as much anymore, or they want to sleep more. It just affects their life very negatively. So I think bars and clubs is the unhealthiest. You look at kind of friends, like a social circle, let's call it like that, kind of work, uni, friends of friends. I think the problem with that's actually, I think, a very healthy place to meet girls. But you have to take into account that you have to be calibrated. If you hit on someone at work, first of all, you can get fired nowadays for that. Like if it's a big corporation where, you have like HR department, you can easily get fired there. If you live in a place where that's not a big problem, then well, it's fine. But let's say you go out, you hit on a girl, she says no. Well, the problem is you still have to work with her tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let's say you hit on her, you go out on a date, you sleep with her, but then you realize you didn't click and this isn't gonna work. You still have to work with her tomorrow. Let's say even worse. You go out with her, you sleep with her, you start dating. Statistically, most relationships don't work out. And then you still have to work with her.
Yeah, that's awful.
So I think it's a tricky scenario. And I think if you look at the lifestyle perspective, then I think Daygame is the healthiest way to meet women. You go out and you see a girl on the street and you approach girls in everyday situations. You are sober. You're meeting, like if you go to a club, you're going to meet a girl who goes to a club. Like not everyone who goes to a club is like an alcoholic party person, but 9 people out of 10 are just party people. Like I don't want to hang out with 9 out of 10 people that I'm going to meet in a club. I'm not interested in 9 out of 10 girls that I'm going to meet in a club. Whereas Dating gives you an opportunity to meet everyday girls in all of these situations, whether you see a girl sitting in a coffee shop, in a bookstore, grocery store, just walking down the street, it doesn't matter. I think it gives you like this opportunity to do it in a healthy way. And, gyms, by the way, another thing, hitting girls in a gym, I think also work and uni, all these places are okay if you know how to do it in a really, really good way. So I think, that's how I view this dating and health, because that's what a lot of people reach out. Is like, hey, I don't drink anymore. I don't want to go to clubs anymore. How do I date in a healthier way? So that's my take on meeting girls. If you want to live a healthy lifestyle.
Absolutely. And I wanted to also add on to this is like one of my clients was asking me like, hey, what do you think about gym game? I'm like, first of all, knowing me, I'm pretty meticulous. I'm pretty nerdy. I like to track my weights and reps, and I like to stick to one gym for like weeks on end. So if I speak to a girl basically in the gym, and if she rejects me, like rejection doesn't hurt me basically. But if she rejects me, she's gonna feel awkward when I do return back to the gym for my next session. You know, if you try to search for the sexy object, like what do you think about gym game? What do you think about office game? You're lacking the basic skills of like having the balls to go and approach a girl in daytime, plain sober, and like everybody can grow a pair of balls behind the screen while staying on Tinder. You know, yeah. Well, few can actually like it's a pretty masculine thing to do. So yeah, that's my take on it basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I plug
Yeah,
something?
pretty cool, man. I mean, I was going to.
So if anyone is, interested in improving their dating life, don't listen to what I say here. And the problem with my content is it's pretty like it's right. It goes deep. It goes straight in depth. So if you start looking at my content on YouTube, you're not gonna understand like 70% of things I'm talking about. So the best thing to do is simply head over to my website and join a mailing list. saintrobert.blog, strobert.blog, or daygamecourses.com if you want to check out my free texting and dating guides. But the thing you're going to get when you join the mailing list, I have an onboarding sequence where you get like a few emails every other day. You get one email a few days later, you get the next one, where I explain everything from the basics. It's like, hey, what are the differences between online dating, bars and clubs, social circle, day game, and all these things? Why is day game the best? Okay, now that you know Daygame is the best, well, why do most people fail in Daygame? Because I would say that 1 out of 50 to 1 out of 100 people who try Daygame ever succeed in it. But there are things that the guys who succeed have in common. So I explained to you, hey, Daygame is good, but if you want to succeed, then you have to understand these few concepts. So I walk you from not knowing anything at all to having a decent understanding of what is day game, how does it work, what does it take, so you can make an informed decision of whether this is something that could work for you, and you can go out and try it easily. I give you all the instructions, like what exactly to say, how exactly to stop a girl, how exactly to start a conversation. I think it's going to be a good start, and if you want to go down the rabbit hole, I have hundreds of podcasts and videos and all of that stuff, and you can do that later. So strobert.blog.
I'm going to be adding in the links of all of this, and take it from someone who Robert has helped back in the day. This guy genuinely cares, and he how do I say this? It's not more of like a stakes dynamite text that you need to send to the girl of your dreams at 12 a.m. None of that shit. Like everything is going to be covered from where to meet, what to say, how to become the person that you actually want to become. And it's very practical. He's not going to ask you to sit in a room and ask yourself to tell you affirmations and any of that shit. Very practical, very actionable. Yeah, that basically is that. I'm going to be adding in all the links at the bottom, and feel free to check it out,
Well, that's it, guys. If you want to learn more about Yash and how he usually coaches guys, then check out the links in the description or simply message him on Instagram. That's it for this time. See you in the next podcast episode. Ciao, guys.